read the message of condolence from Uhuru Kenyatta following the death of former Prime Minister Honorable Raila Odinga, as is on the screen. And this is from the office of the 4th President of Kenya. And he says, "My heart is heavy and my spirit is burdened with a grief that is both profound and deeply personal. The news of Raila's passing has left a silence that echoes across our nation, a silence where once there was a voice of thunder and conviction. To me, Raila was more than a political colleague. He was a defining part of my own journey in public service and in life. Raila and I were navigators on opposing currents, charting different causes for the nation we both loved. At some point along the journey, we became political opponents, and often the weight of that competition felt immense. Baba, as we fondly refer to him, was a man who made you sharpen your own ideas, compelling you to defend your positions with rigor and passion. However, in the recent years, a different bond was forged, one of respect, of shared patriotism, and a common desire to see a united Kenya. The journey from fierce political opponents to partners in the pursuit of handshake unity taught me the true measure of the man. I saw firsthand his unwavering passion for this country, his deep-seated belief in justice, and his incredible capacity to think beyond personal ambition for the sake of national peace. He was a formidable opponent, but he was an even more invaluable ally in the cause of reconciliation. I have lost a friend and a brother. I will miss our conversations, sometimes challenging, always insightful, and the fire of belief that never left his eyes. To Mama Ida, the children, and the entire Odinga family, I extend my deepest, most heartfelt condolences. You have shared Baba with Kenya for a lifetime, and we mourn with you. We have lost a father to the nation, a steadfast champion for the people, and a true son of Kenya. His legacy is not just in the political battles he fought, but in the peace he helped build. It is etched in the very fabric of our nation. Rest in peace, my friend. Your work here is done, but your echo will never fade. Signed by His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, CGH, the 4th President of the Republic of Kenya, on this 15th day of October 2025. And that is quite
very instructive. I think even the picture that he chooses to accompany this this message, and I think the honesty of the message that they charted different paths and navigated and had different sort of ideologies and ideas of where the country should go, and this almost opposing, challenging views became this political sort of theater that the country experienced between these two gentlemen. And then finally, in the final stages, they sort of come together, and his admission that he came to see his side of things and managed to see that Raila, for what everyone has said, he did put the peace of the country ahead of everything else. He thought that whatever his political ambitions were, and whatever the circumstances and ideas that he had and would bring to the table, the peace of the country would sort of be the bedrock where that would be laid.
And I think he stepped back many times. I think I remember, and a number of incidents I can cite, but I remember when we were covering the Bomas conference. I mean, he was very big on a devolved system of government. He was a great proponent, I think, to his death, of the so-called Bomas draft. And the Bomas draft had a powerful prime minister and a president who was somewhat powerful but largely ceremonial. And it's something that he believed. His idea around this was that we needed to move closer to a parliamentary system where where the prime minister, whoever became prime minister, then needed to get the majority of seats from around the country, and that would kind of ensure certain representativeness that the winner-take-it-all presidency, he believed, did not provide. However, it was interesting that at Bomas, he had, just at the very last minute, this must have been 15th of March 2004. This is when now the Bomas conference is concluding. So he says that we can have this draft passed this way, but then the current president doesn't need to worry. We can have these things then implemented after the election, because that was his idea of saying, guys, you may be threatened by this and the other thing, but don't worry, this can take effect after the election. I mean, many will recall that's the time John Mishuki had talked about the whole thing of juggling the liver, that, you know, we didn't quite mean that we wanted, you know, the powers of the presidency clipped. It was because Moi was there and we needed to have this prime minister's thing.
But now we have a new situation.
If it didn't work, then we would have the prime minister. If it worked, we'd have the presidency. That's what he meant by juggling the liver. But now that we are here, it really doesn't matter anymore. And that was quite interesting to watch him like stepping back. The other one was the KANU NDP merger was I think, a consequential political development whose impacts we live with today. Because in one fell swoop, I think that move killed KANU, the 40-year-old independence party, the grand old party that had basically towered over the nation since independence, was basically reduced to a rubble by this act of getting into KANU and then coming out and hollowing it out completely. I mean, people who nobody would ever thought would take on any sort of challenging political task, whether you were talking about the Saitotis of this world, Moody Awori, Kalonzo Musyoka, people who had been associated with KANU and the Moi regime all their lives. But suddenly, this gave them the courage to actually step out of KANU and imagine other political possibilities. And that was because of what he did. So what happened on March 18th, 2002 it was, where the parties merged. I remember vividly a young reporter covering the KANU NDP merger and the KANU flag, the NDP flag coming down, the KANU flag going up. He had a political spin around it. He said, no, this is actually new KANU. But he was the only one who called it that, because he never wanted this idea to keep coming out that KANU had swallowed NDP. But then he had a twist to it. He would say, jogo ilimeza tinga tinga, lakini tinga tinga bado iko na nguruma huko ndani. So basically that's how KANU imploded. And so when we come to now 14th of October 2002, James, where now the Kibaki Tosha thing is coming up, it was also an interesting climb down, because remember, he had walked out of KANU with this momentum. So they have all this LDP, they are calling themselves the Rainbow, and they have come out. KANU is reduced to a shell, but still potent, because Moi was in power. And he has had a meeting in the morning with Simeon Achai, who was also running on, I think, 4 people it was. And he was very sure that Raila was going to back him. But they go to Uhuru Park, and this is literally 2 months to the election that year. They go to Uhuru Park, he looks around, and I think he also figured that that was the best way to defeat Moi at the time. So to the surprise of everybody, friends and foe alike, he says Kibaki Tosha. And that was really 14th October, that's the day that decided that election, and I think shaped Kenya's political trajectory from that moment on today. I mean, let's face it, today we'll talk about KANU, but is it really what it used to be? It's a terribly pale shadow of what it used to be back then, but that is because of that day, 18th of March 2002, when Raila folded his party, joined the KANU, only for the thing to implode later on. And it was just interesting to watch. He used to have this green jacket that every time he wore it, you knew that there was something coming.
Something in the offing.
He would talk about kichinjiwa turudi tena.
Yeah.
So it was almost like his combat jacket. It was this green jungle kind of thing. I still remember that. So those moments for me painted the picture of a man who believed in what he wanted, but did not shy away from stepping back if he thought that that served a greater cause.
Yeah, the tactician, Raila Odinga, I think then much later after 2002, then you get to this, I think we don't realize that Raila Odinga wasn't even a candidate, because the mood then in the country after the 2003, the fallout with Kibaki, was he wasn't popular enough to be a candidate. And we forget that opinion polls had put Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as the presumptive candidate for the opposition, as it were, at that time. And up to 2005, Raila Odinga then was not supposed to be the candidate because he wasn't, quote-unquote, acceptable enough. And 2 years to the election, then the man somehow manages to move the tactics around and he becomes the presumptive candidate for ODM. Of course, there's a fallout with ODM Kenya, but then goes to that election that, you know, Kisi has spoken about, that he eventually, you know, gave the state a run for its money. An outfit that was put together in 2 years. And that speaks quite to the Raila the tactician, Raila the strategist, and the Raila really who spent a lot of time thinking about politics and about the moments that you make the switch, thinking about who else should I bring into this arrangement. You know, the Pentagon, you know, quite a thing that we never experienced before. And this was his idea then of this country, to the point of believer of a devolution, that it's impossible for anyone in this country politically to be the ultimate person who can represent the wishes of every community. And his thought then was, maybe I need to put a team of equals, he called them, and together we'll go to an election. And they did put one front as a Pentagon, and there would be just one. He said, I'm just one among equals of these 8 people who are seeking the, you know, the seat of this country. And that was an idea that actually, you know, built currency and sold against Mwai Kibaki then, who was, you know, the sitting president.
All right.
Yeah, and that time, and I think it was very interesting that once he got the ODM ticket in 2007, I remember, because all these people were dropping out, whether it was Nyaga, whether it was the Balalas of this world and all of that. And I remember William Ruto telling him, now once he got the ticket, it's just thinking about it this many years later, William Ruto advising Raila Odinga at the time after he got the ODM ticket and making this famous quote that, my brother Raila, remember, he who wants to lead the orchestra must turn his back to the crowd. Basically telling Raila at the time that, you know what, this is going to be difficult. There'll be moments in leadership when you have to, in a sense, shut your ears to what people are saying if you really believe in what is ahead. It's really ironical that, you know, later on there were serious loggerheads, but there was a history between President Ruto and Raila Odinga that went back that way. And I think it started coming out in recent years, especially after the broad-based government deal was signed. I could hear the president trying to invoke those moments when they, you know, founded ODM and worked together. But that's something that struck me, that in many respects he was able to kind of shut his ears when he thought he needed to, in spite of a barrage of criticism that would come when he made certain decisions. And that must have been, I mean, difficult to do when, you know, people have huge expectations and then you have to do something else which you think is perhaps more meaningful or useful at that point in the political journey. And that's something I found interesting. There's also something from Robert Sentamu Chagulanyi, better known as Bobby Wine. He says, we've received the news of the passing of Right Honorable Raila Odinga with great sadness. He stood tall for freedom, liberty, and dignity. In him, we have lost a great statesman, an African giant who did his best for humanity amidst great adversity. Deepest condolences to the great people of Kenya and all pro-democracy forces around the world. May his soul rest in peace. Bobby Wine, Robert Sentamu Chagulanyi, President, National Unity Platform.
All right, and just as we proceed with that, we do have more statements and you know, condolence messages coming from different leaders. We have one from Mutula Kilonzo Jr., that's the governor of Makueni County, saying, on behalf of my wife Anita and the people of Makueni County, we wish to express our deepest condolences to Mama Ida Odinga, the children and the extended family on the untimely demise of Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, or Rao. He was a remarkable individual whose contributions in different areas will be remembered for generations to come. His legacy will be honored by many who admired his courage as he championed for a better life for all, a better country for all. When I finally agreed to vie for Senate on 19th July 2013, he said the following words at the press conference in Serena: "The king is dead. Long live the king." Those words were profound at the time, and pray they become a building block for his family from today onwards. Rest in peace, Baba. Then we also have a statement from Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya. Says, today Kenya has lost one of her greatest sons, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. His passing is not just a national tragedy, but a deeply personal loss to millions who believed in his vision of a just, united and prosperous nation. Raila Odinga was a statesman whose courage and resilience transformed Kenya's political landscape. Through his sacrifices, he expanded the space for democracy and taught us that leadership is about service, conviction, and unwavering faith in the people. And then he goes on to say a couple of things that I'll just bring to the end. He says, on behalf of the people of Trans Nzoia County, I extend my heartfelt condolences to Mama Ida Odinga, the entire Odinga family, and the people of Kenya. May the Almighty God grant them strength and comfort during this difficult time. Rest in peace, Baba. Your light will continue to shine across generations. And I'm informed that we have a recorded phone call with PLP party leader, that's Martha Karua, in regards to her response to the death of Raila Odinga. We do know that Joe had read her. You read her statement, right? It was Smart, sorry.
James.
These things are all over the place. James had read her statement, but now let's just listen to what she had to say.
It is with great shock and sadness that I have learned this morning of the passing on of Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, and former presidential candidate of Azimio, who appointed me his running mate, and he became Kinara wangu. Raila has most of his life fought for the liberation of the people of Kenya and the people of Africa. His life is synonymous with the struggle for total liberation of the people of Kenya, for speaking truth to power. We worked with him for over 3 decades, most times on the same side, but at times as opponents. But one thread remained common throughout: our commitment to free Kenyans, economically, socially, and politically. I'm issuing a fuller statement. I'm still soaking in the news.
You could hear Martha Karua's voice. You can just tell the weight of the news for her. Again, she's another person who worked closely with him, having been his running mate in the last election. You know, and her appointment as the running mate was quite a big deal, especially for the girl child, so to speak, you know.
I think massively important. I think also because things move very fast, we don't take time to realize the moment. Raila had Kalonzo Musyoka as his running mate for 2 consecutive elections. They had done pretty well. There was absolutely no reason to change those numbers. But then, in this moment, he thought that perhaps it is of more interest and perhaps it will give more credence to his candidature to have someone else. So the courage to drop Kalonzo Musyoka then and have Martha Karua as running mate would have been the first, I think, female president, deputy president. Put her on the ballot with him.
Would be president today.
Would be president today. That's
how profound it is.
Yeah, so I think, again, as we speak about Raila and the ability to do things that not many other people would do, this moment then demonstrates that it's not a thing that any other politician would have done. This is your long-term partner. And Kalonzo had really sacrificed quite a bit. Sorry,
let me just interject you a bit, Smart. I think there's a bit of an issue with your mic. We shall get it sorted out.
And then I think one of the things that, you know, as we cover this story is still very unclear what really happened, you know, because I think that statement that will come from the president or the family, whichever will come first, because a lot of things that we've learned this morning. One is that initially at 10 o'clock, Raila's elder brother, Mourning Odinga, was supposed to give a press statement at some point. That was shelved. We now know that a lot of CSS basically dropped what they were doing, and a lot of them then went to State House. For example, the Energy Minister, Opiyo Wandayi, who was in Kitui, because that was supposed to be the start of the Energy Week, leading up to Mashujaa Day, which is going to center energy as its theme. He got in there, spoke to the county commissioner a little bit, went back to the chopper that he had used to go there, and flew back to Nairobi. But from India, what seems to be coming through from a lot of the Indian news outlets that have been reporting this matter, because Raila Odinga is a frequent visitor to India. As Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister there, said, he has an attachment to India, sometimes very controversial. Remember, during the Adani debacle, he came out very openly to support, because he knows India in and out in many respects. And so he from what we are gathering from all of these different things, the only thing that has come true is that he was doing some sort of morning walk, and then he collapsed, and after that he seems to have been taken to hospital, and then he did not make it. He was at this Ayurvedic eye hospital. It's not very clear yet whether he was there for treatment himself or what was happening at this particular facility, because this facility is more famous for eye treatment. But then they offer a characteristically Indian type of medicine, this Ayurvedic thing that the Prime Minister also referred to there. And a lot of these outlets are quoting spokespersons at this hospital, and also police sources, that police and hospital authorities, that's what they are saying, that once he collapsed, he was taken to hospital, and then they were not able to resuscitate him. And I think it would be important, this is in Kerala state in India, and I think it would be very important for there to be clear communication. I think these are moments that call for that, because right now, that's why you're seeing even cabinet secretaries now coming and giving statements before that official announcement that was supposed to come, because of just how this has taken the country in this direction. As you can see all around the country, people are already mourning him in their own ways. And I think it will be very important for that information vacuum to be filled with accurate, verifiable information that people can go on. This is not someone who was a personal property of the family like many of us think we are, but this is somebody whose health, everything about him became very public in many respects. And so people really, I do think, deserve to know what really happened as soon as possible. How did it happen? Because that's important to the extent that this was a very, very public figure. But also, I think in terms of just calming the country, in terms of giving people updates on what's going on, because it really is a shocking moment. There's always because this guy has been there for a very long time, has been part of our politics for many, many years, there was also almost this sense that, you know, people would discuss things about 2027 and all of this. It was a given that Raila was always going to be there. Right. And so to come to a point where suddenly we are thinking about Kenya without Raila. It's a profound moment that I think the country will need to reflect on a great deal and see what does this actually mean, that now people have gone to elections to vote for or to vote against Raila. Like, there are moments where people are not very sure who they are voting against or who they are voting for, but because Raila's name is there, they will either wake up or to go and vote for him, or they wake up to say, no, this guy cannot be. So I think that there is a sense in which we will have a moment of confusion as a country just because of how profound and unsettling this whole thing. I mean, we have all, I think, as a country, been thoroughly wrong-footed by this, I would say.
I think it will even just help grasp how deeply entrenched Raila's influence is in the country. You know, when he's not there, it's like when someone who, in a workplace and someone does many things, when they go and leave, suddenly you're like, ay, anafanyanga mambo yote.
Yeah.
So now we are getting to see, he actually had a hand here. You'll see people coming to give testimonials. We've had Bonakisia giving his story about how, you know, back in 2007, you'll start hearing a lot of that and just realizing how much influence he had and how much he interacted with different people in different positions. And before I get Bonakisia to speak just a bit, let me read the message from Gideon Moi, the chairman of KANU party, who was, you know, whose party is meant to be joining the broad-based government alongside Raila Odinga's. He says, it is a profoundly sad moment for our nation following the passing of Kenya's former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, earlier today. Indeed, Mr. Odinga was the most consequential political figure of our time. This is Moi's son saying, so it's quite something. Throughout his distinguished career as a member of parliament, cabinet minister, and prime minister, he steered some of the most transformative reforms that reshaped the social and political fabric of our country. What will forever define Honorable Odinga's legacy was his untiring selflessness, and he consistently placed the nation above self and above all else. He made decisions not because they were popular or convenient, but because they were right. He was a man of firm conviction who believed that a country can only prosper when constitutionalism and the rule of law precede any other ambition. Yet he was pragmatic enough to build consensus when the country's unity and progress demanded it. On a personal level, Honorable Odinga was my friend and confidant, a leader whose wisdom, generosity, and counsel I deeply cherished. Therefore, to attempt to eulogize Right Honorable Raila Odinga is to accept the inadequacy of words to capture the depth of his impact, his sacrifices, and his towering influence on our democracy. We have lost a leader, mentor, patriot, and father to many. On behalf of the entire Moi family and the KANU fraternity, I extend our heartfelt condolences to his beloved wife, Mama Ida Odinga, his children, Rosemary, Winnie, and Junior, as well as his brother, Dr. Oburu Oginga, during this moment of profound sorrow. We stand with them in prayer and solidarity, trusting that God will grant them strength and comfort to bear this great loss. May the Right Honorable Raila Odinga rest in eternal peace. And we have a few other comments of feedback, which we shall be picking up later on. But Bonakisia, just allow me to read, this is an important one, that is Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, you know, who is not just, you know, the county governor of Kisumu, but this is one of those guys who has stood with Raila through it all. And he says, it is titled, A Tribute to the Enigma, the Son of the Soil, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. A powerful man has just rested. A lion has returned to the mountain. The storm has stilled, but the thunder of his footsteps will echo for generations. The sun rose heavy with sorrow. The skies paused in reverence, and the land weeps. Not just Kenya, but Africa and the world at large. Because a man like Raila Odinga does not die. No, he transcends. He takes a break, a halftime, a warrior's rest after decades on the front line of justice, democracy, and the dreams of a nation. Raila was never just a politician. He was a movement, a rhythm in our national heartbeat, a voice that thundered in parliament, whispered in prison cells, and sang from the streets of Kibra to the hearts of millions. His was a life poured out, fully, completely, in service of a better Kenya. He was imprisoned, vilified, betrayed, but never broken. He never silent, never afraid. And I'll just stop it at that so we can just try and catch up with what's happening in Karen.
Mama Ida is about to
Mama Ida is there, so, and we had seen some photos of even President William Ruto having visited alongside some of his cabinet members and top ODM party leaders. So let's just cross over to Karen, and that is at the Odinga homestead. Should be just outside the Odinga homestead, and just to see what exactly is happening as we look to see presumably is going to be a press briefing, an address, and we could see some of the leaders there who are trying to just contain the crowds there. We do have people who left different parts of Nairobi, including Kibra, who have made their way to Karen, saying they're going to mourn with the family. And so
I think that's going to be perhaps one of the most important moments as soon as that press conference is underway and hear Mama Ida speak, should fill in the gaps and tell the nation exactly what happened. And we will be able now to pick up from there, because then after this, presumably the president will take over and give this plan for the state, presumably announce, you know, the days of national mourning, and that sort of sequence.
Yes.
So this looks like, you know, the beginning of sort of the proper timelines and planning of what would be the sending off of Raila Amolo Odinga. As soon as it settles, you can see the chaos, the people, and, you know, everyone else trying to get the correct angle, and the public who have come to it, you know, in this current home.
And you can just see how they're struggling to just contain people because of how emotive it is.
Yes.
It's, you know, it almost look a bit chaotic because everyone is trying to express themselves. You can see people trying to reach to where Mama Ida is to see her. And
exactly, and I think that is why it is extremely important for there to be structured communication around this, so that people can actually have, because right now it is out of curiosity, shock, it's a mix of emotions, and proper communication has a way of dealing with that, where you explain to people, this is what happened, this is what we know, this is what's going to happen, so that people also have things to say, because like I said, this is not someone who just belonged to this family. As you can see, I am sure some of these people have never even gone there, but they're saying now we are going to find out where this man lives. We need to be told what's going on and that sort of thing. And I think it's important that there is some communication that comes out from the family, from the government, even if all the plans are not in place. But there ought to have been that announcement today with some kind of detail that helps to then fill in some of those gaps. I mean, this is let's not pretend about it. These are tense moments in a country. I mean, our country is always generally a very fragile and many times in political things also excitable. And I think information helps to really calm people down and help people understand this is what happened, this is what's going to happen next. Because right now there's uncertainty. When people are uncertain, then they become unpredictable. And so for me, I think information is going to play a critical role at this stage in just helping to manage what is happening in the country.
And you could tell even from when the news started coming out as sort of rumors. And now everyone starts now moving to mainstream media to see whether we will confirm the information or otherwise. There's been that vacuum. You know, there was that vacuum until now we had to rely, you know, we thought the president would address this, but to this point he hasn't. Bonakisia, what do you think about the communication around this?
You know, the government has got its own system of communicating such a sensitive matter, and it's important that that protocol is, you know, is followed. Otherwise, we can run into deeper, more chaos. And I'm assuming that the first thing, of course, is because this is a highly sensitive security matter. The first thing that the president would do is to have a very deep, in-depth meeting with the National Security Council. Now, to start planning for this country beyond Raila Odinga. Most of us know that, I mean, he's left a vacuum that will take some time to fill, okay? And in that vacuum, there's a possibility that we can, a lot of chaos can be generated, misunderstandings can be generated. So how do you prepare Kenya to move forward without Raila Odinga? Remember that this current government has been stabilized. Has been stabilized because of the intervention that Raila made. Now that is not there, I'm sure the president ought to know from the national security agencies how can we plan for this country. So, I mean, I would not want to blame the government for not making an official statement. The protocol has to be followed. The cabinet has to be informed formally. And then from there, a statement, an official statement is generated. I'm hoping that that does not take too long. I'm hoping that the president will address the nation not beyond 3. Because we actually need to know officially from the state how Raila died. So far, there are rumors flying over all over the continent, all over the world, that he was taking a walk and he got cardiac, and, you know. So an official statement from the head of state would be necessary. And
speaking of the head of state, not too long ago, within about an hour or so ago, he was in Karen at the Odinga household, and those are just pictures of him with the family of Raila Odinga, where he went and visited them to condole with them. And he was accompanied by a large number of people, some of whom we've seen standing there,
I think the members of parliament and the politicians.
There we have Dr. Nyikal, who is trying to get...
it. Yeah, so maybe we can listen in. I think what you're experiencing here is this difficulty of, trying to get a word in and, with the mourners and everyone else, trying to crowd out and get. But I think in any moment, as soon as...
let's listen in.
Joey! Agwambonya lego ninde bade. To. Hello? Kora dwani wakue kabisa. Mondo mama omoswa. Mondo weche mang'eny idhi chiw mbele ka. To mama nikech ung'eyo buok ma embe en go. Dongu ng'eni mama be nigi buok. Wadwani mana omosu, kaito dhi adhi oyue, kaito wadhi yudo weche te bang' mano. Wayie. Aya. Adwanu kwe. Kwe. Hello, kwe bed pin kwe.
Tulieni kidogo. Hello? Listen. Oh, the other side. Hello? Hebu tutulie kidogo niseme kidogo tu. Poleni sana. Wange. You cover the cameras. You cover the media. Poleni sana. Najua nyinyi wote niseme kidogo tu. Poleni sana.
Trying to get good shots and the audio that would help us to broadcast the briefing by the family. And we've seen Mama Ida Odinga there. She is the widow of Raila Amolo Odinga. We've also seen ODM chairperson Gladys Wanga, who also doubles up as a governor of Homa Bay County, as well as other leaders from ODM and even other counties, other parties. In that meeting, from the photos that we have also seen, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki was also at that meeting. We also had various members of the cabinet, including Hassan Ali Joho, who is also ODM Damu, if you may call it that. That is the CS in charge of okay, let's listen in first. All right, and we are still trying to get sound. The sound has been lost, not just on our end, but even on the other teams on the ground, including the Azimio TV, who are pretty much the official media platform for ODM and Azimio, as it were. And like I was saying, other leaders who are at the current home alongside the president. I mentioned the deputy president, Kithure Kindiki, the prime CS, Musalia Mudavadi, Attorney General Dorcas Oduor. We had the Secretary to the Cabinet, Mercy Wanjao, CS for Tourism and Wildlife, that is Rebecca Miano. We had ICT CS Kabogo, Joho, who is the CS Maritime Affairs. We had Alice Wahome, who's the CS for Lands. We also had other leaders such as governors. We had Cecily Mbarire, who's the governor of Embu and also the chairperson of ODM party. We also had the Secretary General of ODM party, Edwin Sifuna. He was also there alongside other leaders from ODM party, such as we have the majority leader that is who was there. Majority leader, not from ODM rather. Majority leader is Kimani Ichung'wah, but the minority leader, Junet Mohammed. And then we also had Esther Passaris, who we've seen there. So there were a number of people, even CS Kipchumba Murkomen was there. So we had an almost entire cabinet team there alongside some of the senior members of the ODM party. And as you can see, it's quite a difficult situation to handle there, because there's this crowd that is, mourning Baba. The family and the ODM leadership are trying to speak. Then it becomes a bit chaotic.
Yeah. I mean, at one level, I think there's something that the family always contended with, that they shared this man with everyone else. So there's that level where it is expected that there would be a certain degree of involvement by all manner of strangers when this happened. But at the same time, I think maybe, and this is where that whole protocol thing perhaps that Philip was talking about comes in, where, because I mean, anyone who knows the geography of that area where the house is, there's a road that comes from, I don't know what it's called, Kerarop, and I'm not too sure what the road itself is called, but there's a road from Ngong Road, then there's a road that goes in all the way. One would have imagined maybe there would be a roadblock there or whatever, because there are a number of people who are going there. I don't think it helps anyone when people are mourning and then there's this uncontrolled crowd, to the point where I saw Ida Odinga basically telling them pole, which is rather interesting. So I think there's something there which, in terms of just how this is handled going forward, because that crowd could easily grow, because some people will see it, and then they can fill up that entire place. It becomes extremely unmanageable. So there's a balance between, yes, this was your person, you loved him.
Yeah,
but then also
does it go to show just how the magnitude of what we're about to deal with and face? Just that we've seen, Ida Odinga unable to address the country, and she was ready in that moment, but just because mourners presumably had already, got into the compound, and they made it impossible for even her to speak. And even in spite, appeals from, Governor Wanga to ask them, be peaceful or whatever that is, they found it that impossible. Just sort of a microcosm of what we'll be dealing with now in the national stage, because the whole country, earlier on we saw people inside Opoda Farm, again, mourners entered the home, people on the roads and that sort of thing. Perhaps maybe, to Kesia's point, this is something that government then would have to arrest very quickly, pretty soon, and provide structures on how exactly people who want to go and mourn places to go, and to give the family the space to essentially mourn their relative.
I think, Joe, I think it's very difficult to manage this situation, because Raila was more owned by the public than he was owned by the family. So there's a huge challenge separating Raila, who is owned by the public, and Raila, who belongs to a family. Because the public still believes that this is our person, this is our Baba, and we have no right to deny us him in life and now in death. But I think, and then there's the issue of also managing emotions. And I said earlier, we're going to go through a very, very difficult moment. I still think that the government, and I'm hoping that the National Security Council, in their sitting this morning, have addressed those issues, those concerns that we are raising. Because going forward, I can see chaos. Because, you see, the National Security Council should, you cannot predict death. You cannot predict death. But in security matters, in management matters, you are supposed to scan the environment and prepare a response in event of something happening. I'm not saying that we knew that Raila was going to pass on, but I'm saying that as people managing security would have said, what if? The question would have been, what if the man comes and is incapacitated, or is, what happens if Raila is not there anymore? So, I just pray that one of the key things that was addressed this morning is the issue of handling security matters going forward, including protocol. Because the family needs space, the family is mourning, the family has actually donated Raila for all his life. For heaven's sake, we need to give the family some time to mourn.
Yeah, there's a statement done from a man who would have something or two to say about the late Honorable Raila Odinga, and this is Ahmed Isaac Hassan, who is currently the chairperson of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, also served as the chairperson of the IEBC across 2 elections, and someone who, well, I should say across the referendum and then the election 2013, and largely. He says this, let me just go to this first. So he says, I join millions, 2013 and 2017, I should remember. He said, I join millions of Kenyans and friends across the world in mourning the passing of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, which occurred this morning in India. Kenya has lost a statesman of rare courage, vision, and conviction, a leader whose life was dedicated to the service of his country and continent. I had the honor of numerously encountering the late Honorable Odinga during my tenure as chairperson of IEBC, where he stood out as a principled and studious Pan-African leader, deeply committed to shaping Kenya's democratic future. His presence in our nation's political landscape for more than 4 decades was defined by selfless sacrifice, resilience, and an unwavering belief in justice and equality for all. The Right Honorable Odinga's legacy is indelibly woven into Kenya's democratic journey. His leadership in the struggle for multi-party democracy, his instrumental role in the making of the 2010 Constitution, and his lifelong advocacy for good governance, devolution, and social inclusion changed the course of our nation. He was a champion of peace and reconciliation, qualities that preserved national unity at defining moments in Kenya. Then he talks about Raila's contribution at the AU and says that in his passing, Kenya has lost one of its greatest sons, a visionary leader who devoted his life to justice, democracy, and the betterment of humanity. So that's a condolence message there, excerpts thereof. Ahmed Isaac Hassan, chairperson of IPOA, and also the former chairperson of IEBC.
All right. I think it was 2010 and 2013, because it was first off in 2016 where
yes,
he got in.
the referendum, yes, but that was
IEBC,
yes,
so he managed, that election.
Yeah.
All right, so we are about to come to a close, so we can hand over to the Swahili team who are going to be taking over this live broadcast. So allow me to welcome our guest to make his closing remark. Sisi locals, let Bonakisia, your closing remarks.
Well, to the family, once again, to the family of Raila Odinga, our condolences for myself and my family. A Mugumo tree has fallen. And you know, when a Mugumo tree falls, you know, the consequences can be there. But he was a man of resilience, hope, has made a lot of sacrifice, and the sacrifice, his well-being, the family well-being for the sake of this country. I know right now we are in a state of confusion, we are in a state of sadness, we are in a state of hopelessness. We have no direction right now. We feel so empty. But my prayer is that this nation will honor Raila Amolo Odinga by ensuring that what he stood for, what he has fought for the last 4 decades, will come to fruition. That this country will be truly democratic, that this country will ensure that there's fairness, that there will be hope for the future. And at this point in time, I pray that the Gen Z, our youth, who are the great-grandchildren of Raila Amolo Odinga, will stand firm, will ensure that his legacy lives forever and ever. Thank you.
Asante sana. Smart wants to say something?
No, just a short message from Ambassador Kiremi Kaberia, who says, my brother Enigma has slept, but he will be as influential in his death as in life. My colleagues from a democracy program 94-2005 will recall from whence we have come under Baba's guidance. To the family, my condolences and prayers are with you. To my mentor, my leader, my friend, and most certainly my hero, rest in peace.
All right, do you have anything to add?
No, really just how profound this moment is. I think it's a moment of reflection for the country. As I said, when someone is part of the political fixture for this many years, 4 decades, no less, it's a time to step back and say, what does this actually mean for the country? So that, one, the things that he fought for are truly cemented in our national culture, and two, that we then begin to say, what does the country look like as a result of that, and what would then be a befitting legacy for someone who has played his role in that manner, his own perceived weaknesses notwithstanding, but someone who has made such a significant contribution to our country. I think it's a moment of reflection and a moment for us to step back and ask ourselves very many existential questions that go to the very foundations of this nation from independence.
All right, thank you very much to the gentlemen for joining us in studio. And as we close, we shall just be having some gallery of photos just showing, just playing on the screen as our Swahili team join us. And so, gentlemen, I welcome you to Tuwapishe wa Swahili. And as they come on set, there are some tweets that are on your screen, and as I hand over to them, just to get some excerpts, we could exit, gentlemen. Yes.
Oh, this is it.
Yeah, this is it, gentlemen. Yes. Karibuni tena kwangu. So we have comments, statements and posts from different leaders. Some of them on your screen, and some of them include Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, who has also said that as we wrestle with the sad news of the passing of a legend in our country, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the doyen of Kenyan politics, our hearts are heavy with sorrow, but also grateful to God for giving him 80 years. He goes on, and one other I will read is by Faith Gitau, the woman representative of Nyandarua County and commissioner of the Parliamentary Service Commission. She says, on my behalf and that of the Nyandarua County people, I join the nation in mourning the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, an iconic leader and a visionary statesman. It is a sorrowful moment for our nation, our democratic space, the African continent, and the world at large. His achievements for Kenya in many different roles as Prime Minister, Cabinet Minister, Member of Parliament, and as Leader of Opposition are impeccable. He was also instrumental in steering Kenya towards the path of a fully fledged multi-party democracy. I urge the young generations to emulate his exemplary, selfless acts of seeking reconciliation, forgiveness, and more importantly, love for his motherland above self. And that is Faith Gitau, the MP, Nyandarua County, who's also a commissioner at the Parliamentary Service Commission. And I will shortly be handing over to my friend, Lofty Matambo, who is going to be taking us through the next few hours as we have our wall-to-wall coverage of this significant development in our nation. And he shall be alongside Frida Mwaka, and they shall be having, there are some posts where they shall be reading some of the feedback, some of what you're seeing on the screen, as well as others, which include those of various leaders, governors, and the likes.